I've had a judge say to both parents, it says, you know what, this child is better off being raised by wolves because you two parents are each doing completely destructive things to this child. And that was a very sad case.
What is going on, everyone? It's Mark Real Jr., the Fathers Rights Attorney, and you're watching another episode of the Fathers Rights Playbook. And on today's episode, we have Attorney Rafael Serrano III in our Irvine office, and we're going to talk about the non-monetary expenses of divorce. Rafa, how are we doing today?
Good. How are you, Mark?
I'm good. So we've talked about the financial impact of divorce and the money you're going to spend directly litigating things. But I think one of the pieces that gets kind of less attention but probably deserves significantly more are the non-financial impacts on your family, your friends, yourself in divorce. So what are some of the common things you see when it comes to these impacts on individuals and their families?
I mean, it's really hard because you try to make the best out of a situation, and you want to get this family to a functional state, because right now they're not, and they're going through a really traumatic experience, and the children are the ones that really are affected by it the most. Yeah. It's a very confusing situation. The younger the children, the worse. They don't know why their parents are splitting up. Sometimes they're stuck in the middle of it because one parent tries to say, what's going on over there? I want you to spend more time with me. Don't you want to spend more time with me? It can get very, very traumatic and have lasting effects on the children. Yeah,
let's stick on that, because you think about just different ages of kids, it has significantly different impacts. You have probably like under 5 years old, there's really struggling the concept. There's just going to be some change in schedule, but I think it's the elementary school, middle school, and then the high school kids. I'm always most in. It feels like the kids who have the most outward impact are the high school kids, and that can be like, okay, they have to move out of the house, so now they have to move schools. They're old enough to understand, but parents are forcing them to pick sides, or parents want them to side because mom finds out that, hey, over the age of 14, they have a right to have their voice heard. Or dad finds out that they're leaning towards wanting to live with mom, who thinks she's going to stay in the house. So like we see with these older kids, it's much more likely for a child to end up completely alienated from one parent.
Yeah,
that's tough. One of the ones that's been in the public eye lately is Brad Pitt. His 18-year-old daughter just filed to have Pitt removed from her last name.
She's the second one. I think another child already did the same thing before her.
And then there's some older ones who have not, who it's not publicly they've done it, but they haven't been using Pitt. And you think about the impact, and these kids were all from the age of 6 to I think 16 when this divorce happened.
Yeah, it's hard, and that. The teenage years are very critical. You have college coming up, and you have a lot of developmental stage that point is very important for them. But if they're stuck in the middle of a divorce or separation, it can really derail some really important parts of their development in their future.
Yeah. And I think here's the one challenging one, is that just like on the financial aspect, it takes two to tango. To get through a divorce without completely destroying your kids' lives, it takes both of you as well. So I always look at it and it's like, hey, it's going to take both. But ultimately, as you said, they're breaking up. They're separating. They're getting a divorce. These two people clearly shouldn't be together. And now we're sticking a Band-Aid on them and telling them to co-parent.
Right.
Like, you hated each other enough that you were going to completely upend everyone around you's lives to separate from this person. And then we just slap on there and say, yeah, just co-parent with them.
I've had a judge say to both parents, it says, you know what, this child is better off being raised by wolves because you two parents are each doing completely destructive things to this child. And that was a very sad case where it was a young child who was having to deal with both parents being getting him very involved. And it was I think it was an eight-year-old little boy. Yeah. And he, at one point, was put under a 5150 hold because he had very detailed and clear thoughts of how he wanted to commit suicide. And it was all because he was stuck between his dad's new girlfriend, mom, and the boyfriend. And this kid, honestly, when you have kids that age, their only concern should be, what am I doing with my friends? What's going on in school? They shouldn't have to worry about these kinds of
the dance with.
Exactly.
Like,
they should be kids.
Light, yeah.
And it's really heartbreaking to see a child have those kinds of, life or death situations at that age, all because these parents just can't stop using their child as leverage.
Yeah. And so what advice would you give to a dad who the mom is trying to leverage it, but the dad's trying to make the situation as good as they possibly can?
I think the important part is whenever you find a situation where the other parent is not being reasonable or is getting in the way, you have to call them out on it. You have to say, look, I want to do X, Y, Z, and this is why it makes sense, and you're preventing that for no reason. And so that way, whenever we go to court, we can say, our client has tried to do the right thing. We're trying to resolve this the right way, and it's the other party who's being difficult, and this is why we're here. And that is a very great way to show the judge which party has the best interest of the child in mind.
Yeah, I think that's the understanding piece with kids too, is when one parent's trying to leverage them, giving them space to be able to process, giving them space to be able to communicate. Because a lot of times what you see is when dad feels like mom's trying to leverage the kids, alienate the kids, he gets more uptight, gets closer, and it's almost, it looks and feels very similar to what mom is doing, rather than giving the child a chance to process, maybe getting the kid appropriate, if therapy or a counselor or someone, a safe space to speak to someone could do a lot of good.
Almost most cases, I think, and most people can benefit from therapy, especially going through a family law case. And a child, I feel like, most of the time it usually doesn't hurt going to therapy. And I think if you're the person that is promoting it and requesting it, the judge does see that this parent is trying to really do what's right for the children and is not trying to just get what they want for their own benefit.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm the person who I'm very public about. Not all cases or therapy makes sense,
right.
But at the same time, I think middle school and high school kids, with everything they have going on around them, with everything they have in their life, a lot of times therapy can make a whole lot of sense. And it may just not be about the divorce. It may be about the boy or girl that they like that doesn't like them. It may be about bullying. It may be about a lot of things. But just giving them that space can be a big deal.
Sure.
So the other one, and this kind of ties into the financials of divorce, but really I think comes into the mental health of the parents. But we usually see it with property. And community property, you're entitled to 50% of it, period. It's pretty black and white law. It's about the only thing that's black and white in family court. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times we see cases get held up over a couple $1,000s, and one party doesn't want to get screwed over at 47%, so we end up in an 8-figure litigation situation.
Right.
So talk about how you counsel clients of like, does this deal make sense? Are we going to spend more on attorney's fees? Your peace of mind of getting the divorce over with.
So I like to look at it as, this is what we want to accomplish. Here's our likelihood of success, and how much is it going to cost to get that, what we want to have the judge order.
Yeah.
And in terms of calculating whether we want to even go forward, do we want to spend the money? Because it's not always, even if we get the result we want, it's not always the result that we need. Yeah. Or we just want it for the sake of having it, but it doesn't really get you anywhere. It just kind of it gets you maybe some peace of mind, or it gets things off your chest, but it doesn't get you anywhere, practically speaking, except for money out of your pocketbook.
Yeah, I had actually had a client, both parties ended up in the hospital. That's how stressful a divorce was on them. They had a 6-year-old special needs child, and they both ended up in the hospital. We showed up in court one day, and wife had put a deadbolt lock with a key on the master bedroom closet, and she had started, we call it chipmunking things. She had started taking stuff and putting it in the closet. So in response, my client ordered a pod and had the pod delivered to the driveway. And it went from they were taking things that they wanted to they had very expensive fine china that it came from our client's like grandmother. And our client was on the older side. So this is like 150-year-old china. Well, the other party took one plate. or they would take just the forks. And it stressed them out to the point where actually in court, the judge gave them two options. Either they figured it out before they left, or the judge was going to order the attorneys over to their house to do a draft of items from their house. And we settled it. They came to their senses. They didn't want to pay thousands of dollars to have two attorneys referee a draft of items. But like 3 days later, both of them were in the hospital because they put themselves through so much stress going through this, trying to one-up the other party, trying to get a step ahead. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I know this, the wife, I mean, she had some serious issues after that I have no doubt were caused by the divorce.
Yeah. It really it gets out of hand really quickly. And that's our job as attorneys, to hopefully have some client control and help them get outside of their emotions, yeah, and think of it, in a smart, reasonable way. Yeah. That's one of our main jobs, and I think it's important when, as an attorney, you have a lot of times where the other side is not an attorney, and you just wish that they did, because if they did, you would not be having such a difficult time. I mean, I had a case recently where we had a stipulation, everything was great, and there was no issue on anything else regarding custody or visitation. Unfortunately, the other side retracted her stipulation at the last minute, but her reasons for doing so were not anything that had any cause for concern to change the situation. And in fact, the only thing that she wanted differently between what she had versus what we wanted was 1 day per week. And so there wasn't any issue about my client's fitness or ability to care for the children. It was just she wanted that one more day a week. And now we're stuck in a situation where we're spending thousands of more dollars when we could have literally been done with this whole case that 1 day. And now the children have to be involved. They're going to be interviewed, and now they're going to be more entrenched in this case than they already were. And it's unfortunate for the parties and for the children, because no one's going to win in this situation.
Yeah, I think one piece we don't talk about enough when it comes to divorce is the physical, mental, and emotional health of the parties. There is real tangible value to a quick and easy divorce. Mm-hmm. I honestly believe dozens of years of life are lopped off by divorce court and the stress that parties get put under in going through the process. And so a lot of times you have to look at a client who we're fighting over $3,000 worth of stuff. And it's like, okay, it's going to cost you more to fight for this $3,000 than it is to walk away. Mm-hmm. And if we just walk away today, we just lifted a huge burden off of your mental, physical, and emotional well-being.
You can get on with your life.
Yeah.
Get on with your life. Put your money elsewhere. Put it into your kids. Do something else with your money that's better than paying us as attorneys to really do what isn't really going to get you anywhere in the end.
I tell clients that the number one job of an attorney should be to effectively and efficiently get you to the next chapter of your life. Mm-hmm. And the more inefficient we are, the more conflict there is. Not only is it more expensive, not only is it going to potentially cost you more money, but it's also going to cost you quality of life. And that's a big deal, and that's something that it's not in the family code. But right. if we could end something now rather than 6 months from now, it's probably worth $3,000 to your health.
Oh, yeah. And all the things you could be doing that you would enjoy, your quality of life will improve dramatically when this weight is off your shoulders and you're finally back to a normal, functional family.
Yeah, and you're not worried about court every 60 to 90 days, right, where you got to take off work, drive to court. You're stressed about what the judge is going to decide. So that's one thing I think that cases really spiral out of control is either the client or maybe the other attorney. Mm-hmm. It's like, we're getting 50%.
Yeah,
I get it. The other side can be unreasonable, but if we can effectively and efficiently protect your rights, I'm not saying give away the farm, but protect your rights, but get you on to the next chapter of your life, that can be a huge win.
Yeah, pick and choose your battles. Let's find out what we want to accomplish, and let's find a strategy to get there as quickly and as cheaply as possible.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Rafael, thank you to our listeners and viewers. Thank you for watching another episode of the Fathers Rights Playbook. We'll see you guys all again next week.